Hello, and welcome to Comics Show and Tell with Nat Gertler. I'm the Nat Gertler part of that, and I'm a comics publisher. Yes, that collection of the Gentlemen Prefer Blondes comic strip that I mentioned in a previous episode is now available at Amazon, and there's a bigger and more beautiful version available at lulu.com. I'm also a comic book writer, and I love comics in all its myriad forms. I love comic strips, and I love comic books, and I love graphic novels. I love North American comics, and I love at least some comics from overseas. I love both black and white and color comics, and I even love two-color comics. I love comics that are really huge, and I love comics that are really tiny. I've even made comics ranging in size from like giant treasury edition story that I did with artist Steve Lieber for a Turkish arts magazine, all the way down to these self-published autobiographical mini comics that I did decades ago. And the small format can be fascinating. It exists for such a wide range of reasons. For example, there's these, just for novelty's sake, there's these ultra mini comics. These were reproductions of what were already small comics, the comics that came in the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe action figure packs when they were first introduced, to introduce you to the characters. And because He-Man is a name, Masters of the Universe is a name, these have now gotten reproduced in these very collectible, very teeny formats. Or, well, I am never going to talk about comics formats without bringing up chick tracts. These religious comics, they represent a rather harsh form of Christianity, which is not part of my belief system. But in terms of content, they're often well drawn, but horrible. But in terms of format, they're amazing. These are very cheap to produce. They sell them by the hundreds for people to hide places and for folks to find them. And when you find one of them, because of their size, it's easier to stick them in your pocket than it is to throw them away. So they serve their goal very well. The artistic mini comics that some people make, that it's a very cheap form, very easy to produce. There's the Tijuana Bibles of the mid 20th century, these little pornographic parody comics that were sold under the counter and were hidden away. They had to be discreet, so the size served them. Sometimes they're a certain size because they need to fit certain packaging. Like these Marvel comics that you got in the 1990s in packs of Drake's Cakes. So they would just slide them in underneath the cardboard inside the wrapper, and there you have it, a nice little wrapped Marvel comic. Or even smaller, the Archie comics that came in packs of Fuji Fruits, a hard candy. So you will see that there's an awful lot of relationship of these small products to sugar, and that is not going to be any less in the comics we're discussing today. And for those who love little comics, at least in the U.S., 1981 was a standout year. Now, it wasn't a big year for the artsy mini comics scene. That didn't really start for a few years after that. No, it was a big year for the mini superhero comic, when 3 separate lines of mini comics featuring big 2 characters could be found at your local 7-Eleven. And one of them could only be gotten at 7-Eleven. Now, if you don't know what a 7-Eleven is, it's a convenience store chain. It was named after the hours it stayed open when they adopted the name in 1946, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Now, most of them are 24 hours. And they're not just in the U.S. When I went to Japan, 7-Elevens were all over the place. In fact, the Japanese liked 7-Eleven so much that they bought out the company. The company chain may be based in Irving, Texas, but its owners are thousands of miles away. Now, if there's one brand linked to the 7-Eleven, it's Slurpee, frozen drink, which is a lot like an Icy. No, check that. Slurpee is an Icy. 7-Eleven licensed the drink from the Icy people and gave it their own name. And they promote a lot around the Slurpee. If you go into a 7-Eleven store on July 11th, 7/11, you can often get a free small Slurpee. They have Slurpee flavors tied to current events and to movie releases. And back in the 1970s, they did some Marvel superhero Slurpee cups. And back in 1981, the promotion was comics. Now, if you bought a 14 or 16 or 24 ounce Slurpee cup, you got one of these scratch-off cards. And if you scratched off the right code and you got a minor prize, the most minor prize, you got one of these two superhero titles, a Captain America Hulk team up or a Spider-Man Spider-Woman team up. And I know Spider-Woman's never been that big a character. She did have her own series at this point, but it wasn't selling very well. It'd be canceled not that long after. But in terms of name recognition, Marvel didn't really have anybody until, if any female superheroes that people would tend to recognize until the X-Men cartoon. Some people might have known Invisible Girl, Sue Storm, but that doesn't make a great cover title. And yes, it was still in 1981, still Invisible Girl, not Invisible Woman. Now, I hesitate to call these two comic books because they really weren't books. They didn't have a hinge. They weren't stapled together or taped together at one end. Instead, they were just long strips of paper folded up. And so you'd unfold them and there would be your comic. And this is where I have a problem doing comic show and tell because I cannot find my copies of these. They're somewhere in this great, wonderful house of mine. But take it from me, these things unfolded. And what did you get if you got one of the rarer prizes at the contest? Well, the top prize was a $7,500 scholarship and a $1,000 shopping spree. And at that time, a $7,500 scholarship would pay for a full year of college. But then you spent the year in college. What do you have left to show for it? Nothing. No, what you really wanted was the slightly rarer prize. And that was the full-size comic book in all of its 32-page, full-color, staple-bound glory. This had all four of the heroes from the main mini-comics fighting the four different villains in a 27-page story, which ended, of course, at a 7-Eleven. The comic also had half-page origins for all four heroes, some puzzle pages, and a center spread advertising the very contest that you had already won this comic in. The back cover was your chance to order Super Slurpee t-shirts. I mean, what a cockamamie blatant promotion. Who'd want one of those? Well, of course, the answer at the moment is me. I really want one of those. But while you were at the 7-Eleven sucking down Slurpees and hoping that you win that full-size comic before you got diabetes, you could actually buy some little comics. You'd buy these DC Secret Origin comics. They actually came out in 1980, but they were still on the shelves in 1981. And these came packaged in a clear pack with a little pack of round candies. And because it's a clear pack, it wasn't a blind box item. You could see what you're getting. If you wanted the Aquaman one, you could get the Aquaman one. They also had, you could order Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Hawkman, Green Lantern, and one, all the JLA people individually, plus the entire Justice League of America origin. And here's the thing. They're actually pretty good comics. They got some of their better artists to work on them, the old timers, but gave good solid tale. Used the size well. Only tried to put a few panels on each page, only a couple. This has Superman, the origin of the Justice League, but it also has some kids trying to exclude a young child because he was an Asian American and he wasn't therefore really American. And, of course, Superman has to explain that many of the members of the Justice League weren't really born in America. Superman has always been woke, folks. The third set of cards that you could buy your 7-Eleven in 1981 were these, Bubble Funnies. They were smaller than the DC comics, but they came not with candy, but with gum, which is kind of like candy. And in fact, the back of it would open up and there would be a slice of bubble gum right there. And for anybody who is old enough to have collected trading cards back when they had bubble gum, you might remember that the gum wasn't very good. But the trading cards, they served a purpose originally. The bubble gum was there because you were technically not buying trading cards. You were buying bubble gum that came with free trading cards. That way, they didn't have to worry about whether they had an illegal monopoly in trading cards because they weren't selling trading cards. They certainly did not have a monopoly in bubble gum. Also, it had the advantage that in some states, bubble gum counted as a food and was not charged sales tax, making it easier for the young purchasers to afford their packs of bubble gum with trading cards. This was a numbered series. You can see number 1 was Spider-Man, and you go through main Marvel heroes. Marvel number 2, Captain America. Oops, that's number 3. I got them out of order. Number 3, Captain America. Number 2, the Hulk. Number 4, Spider-Woman. Number 5, Archie. Archie, yes. This is one of the weird, possibly the only numbered series I can think of that has both Marvel and Archie issues. So, Archie and Sabrina are also available in Bubble Funnies. And again, these were not a blind box item. You could see which one you were getting and easily either get just the one you want or collect the whole series without getting a lot of doubles. None of these books are hard to find these days. You can get the Bubble Funnies on eBay for about $7 a piece and a little more for the DCs. And even if you want the full-size Slurpee comic, you can have that for about $25. So you don't have to do without, but I don't think you'll ever have the same joy I had accumulating these when I was 16. And that's about all I have for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you did like it, click that like button, click the subscribe button, and go read some comics.